The Night Floaters. Some random news reports. Regina, Saskatchewan, 2017. A University of Regina student was harassed by a floating head while using an instant teller after dark. Erica, 21, had stopped off at a bank machine on Hill Avenue on her way home from waitressing. I needed a little cash, so I decided to use the teller, which is only a few blocks from my home, she said. At first, I wasn't aware of anything, as I was focused on my transaction, but then I heard something bump against the glass behind me. When I glanced over my shoulder, I almost lost it. Hanging there, looking in at me through the glass, was an ugly human head. It was some scrawny-looking guy with a thin face. It hadn't looked like it had washed its hair in, forever. And then, when it knew I had seen it, it actually put its lips up against the glass, like it was blowing me a kiss or something. And then it slowly moved along the entire length of the store window, smearing a trail of saliva across the glass. It grossed me out totally. I didn't know what to do. I figured it couldn't get in, not having hands or a body, but I couldn't get out. I was about to call my boyfriend on my cell when another car drove up. Somebody wanted to use the instant teller, and the head disappeared, and I got the heck out of there. But as the business major continued south on Elephantstone, she became aware that the floating head was following in pursuit. It was just outside the driver's side window, hanging in midair and leering at me. Maybe it was trying to smile. I don't know. I sped up, but I couldn't seem to get away from it. I even blew through a four-way stop to try to gain on it, but it just kept up. Erica eventually found refuge in the Golden Mile parking lot, figuring the bright lights would keep the floating head at bay. Erica's boyfriend met her at the plaza, and they agreed, based on information from a YouTube video they had watched on the channel A Warning to the Curious, the Night Floaters, to arm themselves with sriracha hot sauce. The guy in the video said to spray it in their eyes. I know it sounds cruel, but I didn't want them bothering me. The next night, Erica returned to the same instant teller, only to find herself entrapped by the same hideous head. It was surprised when I opened the glass door and opened its eyes wide. So I let them have it with hot sriracha sauce. I bet they could have heard that scream in Saskatoon. It had bloodshot eyes before. I can only imagine what its eyes are like now, she said, laughing. Floating heads, known as night floaters or floaters, are an anomalous phenomena reported from various places in Canada and throughout North America. The name refers to the ability of certain individuals to detach their heads from the trunks of their bodies, the heads then being able to fly or float at will. They are said to attack unsuspecting victims, biting them, and sometimes even killing them. St. Catharines, Ontario, 2013. A former St. Catharines resident reports being attacked by night floaters while out for an evening stroll. The man, who asked to remain anonymous, had a third-floor condo in a development just off Glenridge Avenue, north of the CN tracks. I was used to a certain amount of activity, he said. Of course, there were trains, but not many, and sometimes kids having noisy bush parties down the ravine. But one night, after I turned out the lights, I chanced to look out my window. I could see the Brock Tower from the kitchen, and I was horrified to see a human head staring in at me, just floating in midair. It was male, with long stringy hair. I couldn't tell if it could see me or not, but I noticed its eyes glowed red, like a wild animal. I withdrew to my bedroom, where the curtains were drawn, and I could no longer see it. But I felt its presence outside, all night. After this incident, You can bet I kept my drapes closed nights. The man thought what he had seen was a night floater, which are beings who can supposedly detach their heads from the trunks of their bodies. I'd heard about them back when I was in high school, but I never believed in them. Given the underbrush along the train tracks, a whole colony of them could be out there. The former resident kept his windows covered at night, but after several weeks began to think he had imagined the incident. I would have eventually forgotten about it, but then I was attacked. The man was returning from visiting a friend and decided to take a shortcut, cutting through the pedestrian tunnel under the Glen Ridge overpass. On entering the tunnel, I heard a strange whistling or moaning noise, and I was about halfway across when a pair of heads, a male and a female, swooped out of the darkness and were upon me. In the darkness, all he could really see were the flashing red eyes and teeth. Well, more teeth than should be in a human mouth. The man had picked up a long forked stick in his rambles and automatically struck out with it. I heard the most awful, agonizing scream. I don't ever want to hear anything like that again. And then I saw in the semi-darkness this red blob on the ground. I stomped on it without thinking, and then realized what it was. A human eye. The floating heads had vanished, and the man got back to his condo safely. But then he found himself a marked man. I started getting pictures in the mail, photos of me sitting on my balcony or around town, and in each photo my eyes had been scratched out, like I'd been blinded. But it was after a disturbing encounter in the North End Staples that the man decided he had to leave town. I noticed a young fellow following me around the store. He was thin and rather scruffy looking, and he had a patch over his right eye. I tried to avoid him, but he caught up with me at the checkout and said, "We'll be seeing you." And then he called me by my name. I spent the night in a hotel and put the condo on the market the next day. I have spent most of my life in St. Catharines, but I had to get out, and I'm not planning on coming back. The man declined to say where he currently lives. Floating heads, known as night floaters or floaters, are an anomalous phenomena reported from various places in Canada and throughout North America. The name refers to the ability of certain individuals to detach their heads from the trunks of their bodies, the heads then being able to fly or float at will. They are said to attack unsuspecting victims, biting them, and sometimes even killing them. Toronto, Ontario, 2018. A former security guard claims the 2014 murder of a homeless man in the city's financial district was caused by night floaters or floating human heads. The guard, who spoke on condition of anonymity, worked at a King Street office complex across from where the body of Gabe Young was found, literally torn to pieces. The crime has never been solved. The guard befriended the homeless man, who he claims was a decorated Afghanistan war veteran who had fallen on hard times. He slept on a steam grate across from the building lobby. One night, when it was really, really cold, like around minus 26 Celsius, I went out and asked him if he wanted to come over and sleep in the lobby. It was against the rules, but I couldn't sit there and watch a man freeze to death. He thanked me for my concern, but said the grate was keeping him safe and warm. Gabe was independent like that, eh? After that, the security guard and his colleagues would regularly check on the veteran and share cigarettes, coffee, and food with him, and over time, earned his trust and learned his background. Gabe was a proud man. In spite of living on the streets, the guard said, you had to respect him, respect his feelings. So it was a surprise one night when Gabe Young asked if he could spend the night in the lobby. He said he was being bothered by the raccoons, that they were even trying to bite him. Unknown to most Torontonians, The city's financial district is home to hordes of nocturnal raccoons who infest the downtown alleyways and scavenge garbage cans for food, but they are not known to attack people. Gabe seemed really frightened, which seemed out of character, the guard said. But one night, when we were alone, he told me the real reason. He was being attacked by night floaters. Night floaters, or floaters, are an anomalous phenomena reported from various places in Canada and throughout North America. The name refers to the ability of certain individuals to detach their heads from the trunks of their bodies, the heads then being able to fly or float at will. They are said to attack unsuspecting victims, biting them, and sometimes even killing them. Most people would have laughed at him, the guard said, but I had an encounter with them when I was a kid, and I knew that they could harm people. Gabe said that they would hover around him, whispering to him that they were going to bite him, kill him. Even worse, he claimed they'd set the raccoons on him, although I never heard that they could command animals. I advised Gabe to move to another part of town or even go home. He was from Eastern Ontario, But he wouldn't budge. I guess it felt too much like retreating for an old soldier. The end came one night when the guard wasn't on duty. One of our supervisors, who should have known better, he was an ex-army guy for Christ's sakes, found Gabe in the lobby and freaked out that it was a violation of procedures, etc., etc., etc. Gabe begged him to stay, but left when the idiot threatened to call the cops on him. Gabe should have stayed. He would have been safer in jail. Later, around 3 a.m., another guard doing rounds outside the office building noticed a large group of raccoons swarming the grate where the homeless man normally slept. After driving them off, he found a disfigured corpse under the blood-stained blankets. They had been chewing on him, the ex-guard said. He quit his job the next day. No official cause for death has been advanced in the case of the former soldier, but his friend is convinced he knows what killed him. It was the night floaters. No, I didn't see them, and I don't know how they controlled the raccoons, but it was them. I only know for certain there are such things. They are real. 30 times 3.